welcome everybody today to the business of training and how AI impacts training providers. And I'm sure there'll be a wider discussion around that. And I'm just really thinking about myself. What was I doing a year ago to what I'm doing today, and how has that changed? So the sun was out. So I will keep my storytelling to a short element to it, but literally beautiful morning. Thought, do you know what? I'm going to go out for a run, and basically I completed the run, excellent. And then, it's like all athletes, I looked at the app, and there's actually something in there which is AI, but they very cheekily they call it the athlete intelligence element to it. But what it does capture my performance, my progressive summary, and my future capabilities. So I thought, great. So that wasn't there last year. So that's an advancement from my perspective, and it's a benefit to me. But then tomorrow I've got a task that literally I've got to present to a construction business. And then I used AI this morning basically to do the research. And one point I then thought is like, they actually want me to present it back to them. So I've actually used Gamma, which I have not used before, but I used that this morning, actually to present basically the materials back. And obviously, the only part that I've actually been involved in is really to validate the integrity of that information that's been pulled together. So I feel comfortable about that presentation tomorrow. So it's happening. It's how we have choices and what those choices are about. To kick this off, though, I would like to introduce our sponsor today. Jan, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Well, thank you very much, Paul, and it's fantastic to see so many people joining us today. This must be a new record. Actually, the topic of AI we've been talking about since 2023, and every time more and more people join this particular session. Welcome everybody, and clearly hits the mark for hits us something for a lot of people. I am going to share my screen just for a tiny little bit to give you an overview of what we do as Inmisceo. Uh, Inmisceo is our business. It makes more training impact, or it helps training companies make more training impact. You see Training Journal also sponsoring us and is our media partner. What do we actually do? What does impact mean? Well, on the quality of training, it means that we help training companies design, create, deliver, and measure and actually prove their training impact. So that's the biggest part of what we do. The other part is quantity, so helping you scale your training business. So it's not just about training; it's also about the business element. Quite often we talk about business modeling, helping training companies go into different markets. Pricing strategy is always a popular topic, and how that changes. Launching new products, all these kind of things we help with. What do we do in practice? Because those are all good words. We have a cooperation, a strategic partnership with aNewSpring, which is a blended learning platform specifically for training providers. We have Inmisceo SIP, which is helping you measure your training impact. We do content, whether that's bespoke or libraries of that, to help you augment your training. And we have a number of services consultancy around that. Now, we do like an evidence-based approach, which means we commission research from universities. We've been working with University of Oxford, Durham. We're actually just starting a project with Nottingham. So different universities. And then we like to share that, what we learn, and that evidence-based back to the training community. And that's what we're doing right here, right now, in these webinars. Not just in the webinars, we also organize a conference that we do. It's on the 23rd of October. So in a couple of weeks, we'll be launching that. So keep your eyes out. When we make impact, what does that mean? Well, till now, we've enabled about 1.5 million learners, just over actually. And we added to our customers' revenue in the tally of about £14 million. Now, we calculated this 2 years ago, actually. So I'm assuming it's more at the moment. And also importantly, a number of our customers are winning awards with their work. So we're very proud of all these points. I'm going to leave it almost at that. Inmisceo SIP is what we just launched, which is helping you to prove your impact, but you can learn about that at another time. Let's talk about AI.
Mm. Thank you, Jan, and very succinct. You're improving, so I just want to give you some positive feedback. So thank you. Um,
When you
and then
say
really,
improving, you mean my timekeeping, I mean, I
well,
think.
yeah, yeah. Well, we all like to work together and give each other feedback. And really, thank you so much, obviously, for that insight to Inmisceo. And that probably leads quite nicely onto our guest today as well, Roy, our learning innovator. Today, Roy, would you like to perhaps just give a bit of an insight to yourself, please, for everybody on the call?
Yeah, of course. It's great to see so many faces. Um, Happy to discuss AI and all things for training providers with you. My name is Roy. I work as learning innovator at aNewSpring. I've been at the company for about 6 years, working with our customers a lot, the first 4 years of my career here. And now, since 2 years, learning innovator, which means that I can focus more on trends, on how do people really learn, and make sure to translate that for training providers to insights, to events, and to other inspiring content that we can offer to make sure that you, as a training provider, are really going to help people learn. And of course, one of those aspects is also looking at AI and how can that help? How can that improve? What does it do? So yeah, happy to start up that conversation with everyone here.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you again. Very succinct. So from my perspective, I'm obviously I take a different viewpoint. Obviously, I come from a growth and innovation, but obviously from a business development perspective. So I look at AI also around how effectiveness, efficiencies in operational procedural elements too as well. So hopefully we can give a balanced view as part of this discussion today. And it is a discussion. So we do want everyone to participate. We have the chat facility. So please, any questions, your viewpoints, um, uh, reflections, or anything like that, please use the chat. And what I'll do is I'll monitor that with the team. And then we would like to, a time that is convenient, perhaps bring that to life for us as that. And then perhaps we can have that as part of the discussion today, because this is about collaboration. This is a great opportunity, not for us to stand on anything other than this brings the community together and sharing of insight, sharing of lessons learned, what works, what doesn't work, or what great tools are out there as well. So we've got some links that we're going to provide throughout the session today. But all I can stress is please come to life. Let's have a discussion. This is really what it's about today. And believe me, you don't want to listen to me for the next 45 minutes. So please bring any of your thoughts to life today. So what we're talking about though, and I look at it from a sales perspective, before we can go much further, it's like we need to appreciate who we're talking to, the audience today, your exposure to AI. I mean, I had a colleague that was working with last year, and his statement was he was a casual user of AI, which I loved in some respects. He knew it was coming. He knew there was an influence, and he started to evaluate it in a very much a phased approach. And he was suitably impressed by the integrity and the accuracy of using AI. But I just love the phrase he was a casual user of AI. But Jan, I just wondered, could you perhaps facilitate a poll for everybody to actually participate as we start this session off, please?
Certainly do that. Let's see how I use technology and how good I am at that. Um, with regards to the poll, we have two questions in one poll, and that is launched now. So just to get an idea, how often are you using an AI tool? Uh, by the way, we asked this question in this same session exactly 1 year ago, and I love to see how the difference will look. We'll look at
Do you have
the results from last
do you
year.
have the data? Yeah.
We have the data from last year, but not to hand. But I promise you all, I will put out a LinkedIn post where I make the comparison. I can actually, there is one part of the data that I do have, and that was that last year, 15% said, I haven't tried it yet. Now look at this. I don't know if you see I'm going to end the poll in, yeah, now. And last year, 15% said not tried it yet. What will it be this year? Can you see this? 0% has not tried it yet. So we see a change. Also,
Yeah.
the use. What are people using AI tools for? Business effectiveness is the highest point here. Now, we'll come out of that in the conversation. We see things happening in the chat where people are sharing other examples.
Yeah. And I think also, when we look at reflection, I can't remember who made the statement, but when they were looking at using video in content creation, it was the worst it was ever going to be, and it was only ever going to get better. And I think we have seen some amazing strides forward. But I think that's really interesting from that point of view. So, Jan, thank you so much for that, and obviously 10 out of 10 for the use of appropriate technology. So, Roy, I think probably from my perspective is. So, there is so much information available to us, but it's how do we actually break that down so that it's actually relevant, perhaps actually for training providers in this discussion today. Perhaps if I could open it up really with Roy, where do we start with AI and obviously the relevance, obviously, to training providers from your perspective?
That's a very good question, Paul. What I find fascinating, also looking at the results of the poll, is the distribution of where people use it for compared to where we were 1 year ago. So almost exactly 1 year ago, we hosted a session together with Dr. Felipe Hartman. If you are in education, training business, and you really like to hear about AI or to follow the latest trends, I definitely recommend you as a starter to start following Dr. Felipe Hartman. She's a real thought leader on that aspect, and I learned a lot from her. And I remember very vividly that back in February 2024, and then ChatGPT was already out for quite a while, people were still curious. They were still referring to AI as ChatGPT, which was always interesting. And looking at where we are a little bit more than 1 year further down the road, especially in this group of people, the people that almost half, more than half of them, everyone uses AI on a daily basis, and for a lot of and a big variety of opportunities. So it's not just about course design, saying, "Hey, I want 5 learning objectives on this particular topic," with which I started a while back. It's also about the creating lesson plans, client feedback, policies and procedures, manage staff allocations, framing research. So there's so many different applications you can think of for a large language model, and of course also when it comes to the content generation, I saw someone notifying Synthesia already. So
Yeah,
and what I find, one thing what I find interesting is that we have quite a lot of AI experts who call themselves AI experts, which they might be because they're pioneering on a daily basis. But as I've given away already, I think most of the people are AI pioneers. They're not experts. We're all trialing. We're all figuring out our way in this domain, how it can help us, how it can really improve our efficiency, our productivity. And I would consider all of us here in this meeting being pioneers since we're here and we want to discuss AI with each other. So it's really so many things to explore.
So, I mean, if we look at it as pioneers in some respects, and perhaps use this sort of the synopsis basically of like mountaineers, the mountain is too high for me to climb in some respects. So do I get someone else to do it for me on my behalf, or do I start evaluating it at a point that is relevant to me? Because what I found, and when I speak to different training providers, is that, do you know what? We should be doing more with it, but we're really not too sure what we should be doing. And do we need to set up an additional team inside of say, like, if I was delivering sort of courses and everything like that, a traditional organization, and they seem to be thinking that we need to set up a specialist team just purely for AI. But I think for me personally, it's like, well, everybody should be using AI in, as we saw, I think it was 50%. We're using it every day now. So I think I think there's still there's the willingness, but I think sometimes the pathway to that is still a little bit foggy. And I think not only we can talk about it from a technology point of view, but I do believe there's still a behavioral and mindset element that we still need to climb in some respects, using the bring back in the mountain element to this. I mean, Roy, what would you sort of recommend to someone, who is a traditional training provider, that know that AI is there, they know it's going to be impactful. If they don't do something with it, they will get superseded by someone that is, as a business, around effectiveness, obviously, even if we look at it as customer service point of view. But really, if we look about, I need to be innovative as an organization, but you need to empower your people. If we got any sort of, your discussions, obviously, with training providers, of how they've actually tackled that, just to give us some structure, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think it all starts with having a clear overview of what your tasks are within your organization. So where are you spending your time, and where are you spending most of your time? So is it, we've already had these options, like is it on business administration? Is it on, gathering data from your training? Is it about course design? Is it about content creation? So what are the tasks you are working with on a daily basis? How many time are you spending on those tasks? And what are tasks that annoy you and that you think are, not this again? This costs me 2 hours every day and I'm just done with it. So what are those tasks? Try to get those in an overview, and then try to see, all right, how could I potentially automate those kinds of tasks that I just don't want to do, or that I'm just sick of? And then just start experimenting. Well, it's always difficult. How do you start? I'm also looking at the audience, of course. So is there, for example, a task that people thought of that, no, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to automate it? And how did you start? For me personally, and for our organization, it's helping each other. Because like you said, Paul, very rightfully so, we're all using it on a daily basis. We just have to start up a conversation in our company. So what we did at aNewSpring, we're a learning technology provider. We feel that we have to do something with AI also to stay relevant, but mostly to help training providers with their courses. So we started up an AI innovation campaign within the team. And it's not just instructional designers or developers. It's also business operation who's there. It's product, it's customer success. We all went into this brainstorm group and started thinking, all right, so how do you use AI? How do you use AI? And how could we apply that to our product? And which questions do we get from customers? What expectations are there? And just gather all that information, have a discussion with each other, and then come up with solutions for problems. Because, that's what I was referring to. If you get this task overview, you're doing things, you're encountering problems, and you want them solved.
Yeah, brilliant. Can I just perhaps bring in Murray? Actually, Murray, you've put some really great stuff in the chat. If you could perhaps bring some of the work that you've been doing just a little bit live and just share some of those insights. And I appreciate, it's great to collaborate. But
sure.
Give me a bit of an insight to where you are and the things that you've done to obviously make some impact.
Yeah, okay. Is there any particular aspect of what I've been saying in the chat that you want me to focus on?
Well, I think that obviously you were talking about assignments and everything like
Right,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, this is a platform for us just to share, and
Sure.
you feel the value. I love that opportunity.
Well, I think that the feedback on assignments is a particularly interesting element to it, because I run a program for trainers, helping them to find more clients, and my clients submit assignments through an online portal. There's quite a lot of work that they're submitting, and I found that it was very difficult to keep up with giving them good quality feedback, other than in one-to-one sessions and online group coaching calls. And then I kind of struck on the idea of seeing what would happen if I fed my entire course. So I gave the whole course content to a chatbot. My chatbot of choice is Claude. So I created a Claude project because it's got such a big context window. I was able to upload all the slides, all the video scripts, all the tools and templates that I use on the program, and explain to it with a very careful prompt that when it receives a piece of an assignment, it has to think about what the person knows that's gone before the assignment, but they don't know what's coming up after it. So that and essentially it's a bit like getting a chatbot to do the course. And I was completely blown away by the quality of the feedback that it was able to give. What it's really meant is that I'm in the process of kind of reorganizing my processes so that when a client submits an assignment, I can give them a page full of feedback within a day or two, no matter what my workload is, because it's just automated the whole process. And that's I think has really increased the quality of the feedback that I'm able to give, as well as the speed with which I'm able to do it. So that's one use case that I've found incredibly useful.
And if I may ask, Murray, how was what did you see with the quality of the assignments that were handed in? How does that? Because at some point, I mean, we cannot go behind the fact that a lot of our students, learners, are also using AI.
Yeah.
So with this sort of method, you'll have an AI created assignment judged by an AI given feedback.
Yes. Well,
so where's the human then?
Yeah, there's a bit of conversation about that in the chat and comments about university students who are using it to fake their exams, and I think it's a really different kind of scenario, because that is a big concern in those kind of environments. But the sort of work that we're doing, I actively encourage my clients to use AI because it helps them to get better outcomes, and ultimately they're not trying to pass an exam. They're trying to learn their learning skills that they can then use to promote their businesses. So the AI helps them to do that better, faster. Really, it's been transformational in the case of some clients where they've used it extensively and kind of followed the model of what I'm doing by feeding all their content to the AI and finding their ideal client avatars and all their marketing materials and that kind of thing, and then getting the chatbot to sort of suggest how they could improve the way that they're positioning their business in relation to their specific clients, and that's been very, very effective for a lot of clients. So I'm not too worried about them cheating if it were, and I encourage them to do so, because the objective is to help them to be able to implement what they're learning faster. Not to prove that or to receive a qualification or to prove that they've achieved a certain level of learning. And I noticed there's a couple of questions about IP coming up in the chat as well. I'm not especially concerned about that, because I kind of my thinking is that the real learning comes from the discussions that we have around the models that we're using, and not from the models themselves. And so I'm pretty relaxed on the subject of IP, but I think if you were a little bit more concerned about it, I don't know. I mean, it's not something that I have expertise in. I know that Anthropic, for example, say that they don't use your data to train their AI models. So I guess it raises the question of whether or not we can trust what they say.
Very, very interesting insights there. I just wondered, Roy, just before you go, Jess, could you come back in as well? You were just talking about regulated qualifications as well. Just some of your experiences around that, if you don't mind, please.
Yes, of course. As I said in my introduction, I work for an awarding organisation, so we must regulate qualifications based on what our regulators demand, in line with policies and procedures, our specifications of the qualifications. So what we're finding, I've noticed just in the chat reference to HEIs, universities, but we actually offer pre-access qualification. So it's a pre-entry qualification for learners, that for anybody that doesn't know, so that they can actually gain entry onto university. And we are finding that learners are using AI to actually just write their assignment. So actually just putting the assignment brief into it, generating their assignment and submitting it. There's very clear guidance from regulators. There's also some really useful updates that have just been released by the Joint Council for Qualification, so the JCQ, for anyone that's not familiar with that. And it's really useful, and there's emphasis on the fact that when you are marking learner work, especially for a regulated qualification whereby it either leads to a license to practice, entry to a higher qualification, or a specific skill set, that the work must be completed by the learner independently. And if it has been generated with the use of AI, then it is not the learner's work. Therefore, the learner wouldn't achieve the learning outcomes, achievement criteria. So we're having huge battles with things like that at the moment, particularly as learners are also uploading the assignment briefs. And for those AIs that have an open domain, it means that our assignment briefs and secure content are in the public domain. So it's very difficult to keep on top of. We are also having a battle with assessors also using AI to mark assignments. They are the ones, when we approve centres, it's based on staff having the expertise and knowledge and competency to make those judgments. It's not the use of AI to determine that. I think some are used quite well to determine if AI may have been detected, a little bit like the Turnitin software that everybody's probably more familiar with. So there's lots of battles going on. So we're just trying to get a sense of what's going on out there to stay ahead of the game. But that's something really challenging for awarding organisations at the moment. And of course, it's really beneficial to a lot of tutors for marking. What Murray said, I find really fascinating and would definitely support outside of regulated qualifications. But then does that blur the line if somebody then goes on to do a regulated qualification, thinks it's okay, and doesn't see it as plagiarism or malpractice?
Yeah, and I suppose coming back to qualifications as well, I mean, with like say NVQs, part of that program as well is a professional interview as well, isn't it? So it doesn't mitigate, but it does help bring a sort of human element into regulated qualifications. So it'd be interesting to see the role of assessors and facilitators in qualifications going forward as well. Thank you so much for that insight. I saw David Bryant as well. You were nodding your head quite a lot to that. I mean, what's your experiences, David?
I think there's a distinction to be drawn between training and learning. I think if your challenge is to train a group of people to perform a particular task, let's say build flat pack furniture. Flat pack furniture is designed to be built in a certain way. There's a right and a wrong way of doing it. AI is brilliant for that. Absolutely no problem at all. I think if what you're looking to achieve is for someone to learn a particular skill which requires human ingenuity, reflection, consciousness, intuition, coaching conversation with somebody who's trauma informed or has had a bereavement or welcome them back to work, you wouldn't use AI to tell you how to go about that. You'd want to draw upon your skills as a human and actually be able to respond to what happens in that space. So I think we need to draw a distinction between training and learning. I don't think learning AI can be used to enable learning, but there needs to be scope to assess an individual's skills, not their use of AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, David, for that insight. Jan, could I just bring you back in? You're making reference to Don. Do you want to bring that to life for us, please?
Yes. Thank you for that. Fantastic comments everywhere in this conversation. I love it. Just to bring another perspective to this, Donald Taylor. If you don't know him, follow him on LinkedIn. Like Dr. Philippa Hartman, very much a commentator, but also a researcher in the field. So always worth following. Don Taylor put a post on LinkedIn the other day about his belief that traditional the traditional static learning linear course is kind of nearing its end. Actually, he says in 2 till 5 years' time, this might be gone. Now, the question that he do put in his post is, what do people think? And normally, Don is a pretty popular guy on LinkedIn. He gets maybe 100 comments on that. I counted 260 people or 260 comments on his chat. So this is really invoking a big conversation. And I'd love to understand what people think here. In 2 to 5 years, will the normal course as we know it, the generic course, be gone? Will that have been replaced by AI-driven personalization and adaptivity that already a lot of people like Philip Hartman have said AI makes learning faster, more relevant, more engaging. What do people think in this conversation?
Yeah, and for Jan, what I've done, I've actually put that link actually in the chat for people for future reference as well, because it was insightful. But I personally believe as well that the human interaction is still going to be quite pivotal. It's just about how we make a choice to have that enabled in the programs, and whether that would actually differentiate ourselves. So I think it's a marriage or a blend, I should say, between the right and most relevant technologies with the most appropriate use of human interaction to be pivotal.
Yes. By the way, I apologize for cutting across there, Paul. I'm sorry. The 260 conversations that were put in there, or comments, I needed AI to summarize all that, by the way.
Why not, Roy? Did anyone actually? What was the results of that?
Well, I indeed, I also used AI to summarize all these comments. And what I did was that I created an extended management summary out of that post and out of the 240 people that replied, sent it to our management team and said, hey, look at this post, look how it resonated, look at what everyone said. Let's start up the discussion internally as well. How do we, as a learning technology provider, want to add to this conversation? What do we believe is the future of our product and the way we help people learn? And how does that relate to this discussion about traditional classroom? So I used AI to quickly give myself a summary and then hopefully inspire the management team to do something with it as well. But it's a very interesting conversation, and I really liked what David said about the human element, and I think that's something that I hear from everyone who's been speaking. The human element is important. Empathy is important. I mean, an AI. I believe there's 3 factors when it comes to empathy, and one of them is congruence of feelings, feeling what another person feels and what he's going through. And AI can sort of mimic that, and it can predict what the best next thing would be, but it cannot feel what you're feeling. So when it comes to those coaching, yes, of course, there might be ways to use AI, but yeah, the human element.
Yeah, that's right, because that's like a very emotional bit. And Dermot obviously just put something in the chat. How does AI make up for experience? Dermot, can you perhaps just want to bring that to life just for everybody else on the call, please?
Yeah, really, an awful lot of time, people, when you're training in a room where you're training people at various things, and I think it was David that said earlier on, when you're trying to train someone to make a flat pack, well, what happens if the flat pack isn't right all of the time? What happens if it comes with an extra piece? Or what happens if, and if you've no experience, if you've nobody who has been there, done that, wore the t-shirt, then you're dependent on what everybody else is putting into AI to tell us where to go and what to do in any given situation. We had a situation recently where we had somebody monitoring the same training program, half-day training program, being done over 4 days with a view, inverted commas, of them creating their own one based on the fact of the thing. But the thing that was said to me at the end was, you didn't use the same examples in each one. And I said, well, no, because I responded with an example based on what questions I was asked. And people came at it from different points, depending on where their points of view were. to ask a certain type of question. So therefore, you would give an example of how this work, didn't work, should work, based on what you're asked. I just wonder how AI is going to do that and be accurate about doing it. That was really what my question was. That we're losing the benefits of the old grey hair group that we have around the place from time to time, that that we can rely on. If you go back into the Lean Six Sigma side of things, you've got the Sensei. There's none of them young.
Yeah. But also sometimes I think when we look at, is the traditional course doomed, as we were talking about, or does it evolve into something that's better? And because I think from my point of view, and even thinking back from a university point of time, the most powerful thing was connecting the learners and the facilitators, in that sort of collaborative problem solving element to it inside of the program. And then I think, once you have that point is more valued than it was historically, because that opportunity, like as we're discussing today, when do you have an opportunity to 80 people just to share ideas? It's so empowering, but obviously it has to be relevant and interesting as well from that perspective. So yeah, Dermot, thank you very much for those ideas. I was going to say, Roy, have you got anything else that, from your perspective and your experiences to add to that at all?
No, not for now. Actually, no, I'm still wrapping my head around things as well. I mean, that's it's yeah.
Perfect stuff.
I like your point, Roy, on we are all what did you call it? Pioneers.
Pioneers. Yeah.
We're all just finding our way. And there are a few people that made it their profession, so maybe we call them experts. Yeah, there's a lot of noise. And I see quite a few, I see a few comments in the chat on what is the right AI tool. And you shared there's an AI for that link. I like that. But there's an explosion going on of things that are happening, and I've heard some people say, for example, life will get easier with AI. See, I don't believe that. I believe that we just get more to do. We get more done. Our productivity will go times 10, maybe times 100 over time, and that means that we just have to do more because everybody else just does more. It's not that life gets easier; it just gets more productive.
Yeah. And would you say you've become more proficient at writing prompts? Because there's so much I see on LinkedIn about prompt writing and this and the other, and then they try and suck you in, and there's a course for that. It's like, but what I have learned is just putting in some of those discrete little prompts. If I'm doing research and ask for it to be in a matrix style or something like that, it actually just completely changes it. So I think we could probably do a session just on prompt writing. But I think if you're doing some research about whatever it needs to be, and as we said, there's an AI tool that can do that for you. But some of the prompts ask them for the outcome to be in a matrix style as well. And it's amazing how quickly it puts that together for you. And I find personally that helps me in some of my work that I do as a business manager. So
well, the AI helps me write, right? So we had at our conference in October last October, we had Julian Stott there, and he said AI becomes conversational. And yes, ChatGPT now has a conversation with me. It asks me things. It even challenges me. Are you sure that's it brings me ideas. So it becomes a real conversation. So the AI prompting I get through in conversation.
Yeah. Denise, I can see you putting some chat in the text there as well. Could you perhaps bring some of your experiences to the fold as well? And there's so much chat about humanization and everything like that, but be good just to have some of your insight, if you don't mind sharing. But if not, we'll carry on with the chat. But I think from my point of view, I put a couple of links in there to some of the other research, and what we're obviously in do as well is actually share a lot of these links in the chat for everybody post this session today. Jan, as sort of leading the innovation, obviously, for training providers with Inmisceo, what other key things would you think about, just leaving us with some really some thoughts to think about, not answers, but just for us to think about where best to look? What information would you recommend we start investigating for ourselves?
Good question. Two things, really. One, there's a principle. My principle is that training that we're doing here is training for humans. So I very much believe in the blended approach. We're training humans, so the human element in that I think is really good, but also technology assisted. So technology plays a role and underpinned by science, learning science, neuroscience. I think that's a really important part because there is a lot of hobbyism in training as well, and we need to. AI will make that very professional. So I think there's those three elements are really key. And the second part is the use of AI. I just said times 10, times 100 in productivity. We have to use it. We have to adopt it. We have to play with it. This is such an expanding field, it's going very quickly, that if you don't on a regular basis play with it, use it, try to do stuff with it, then you'll actually fall behind. And I think that effect of falling behind, I'll look at it next year, I'll take some time. I don't think we can afford to do so. So I think we need to adopt, play, go for it.
Yeah. Perfect stuff. And Roy, perhaps some lasting words of wisdom as our, should we say, our innovator.
I absolutely agree with what Jan has just said, especially when it comes to the human part and to the blend. I don't think AI will replace everything because it cannot replace this human interaction, the way that we learn from other people. It can definitely enrich the learning experience. It can maybe make it a little bit more efficient and a bit more effective, but in a good blend with a real purpose and the right objective. And yeah, we're figuring out that right blend. Of course, it's different for every training, it's different for every target group. But really, yeah, creating a right blend with the right human interaction behind it and the right tools, I think that's going to be crucial when we move forward.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. So really, I think summarizing, it's a great power tool, but it's got to be in the hands of someone who actually knows what they're doing with it.
As my colleague Gerald always says, a fool with a fool with a tool is still a fool.
Exactly. Perfect stuff. So what I would like to do at this point is to thank everybody that's actually joined this collaboration today for the training provider community and wider markets. We've hopefully discussed, which is basically a bit of an iceberg, I feel. There's so much more underneath the surface that we can't actually approach. But I do thank everyone for their contributions, sharing of information in the chat. We will follow up. We will provide these relevant links to you. And all I can ask is that carry on being creative, but make sure it's relevant for your target audience. And I feel that we'll build a better place and better train people for the future. So other than that, I'm going to wish everybody a glorious remainder of the day and hopefully take one thing away from today and have an impactful impact tomorrow. Other than that, thank you so much. Speak soon.